is 186.
The Ultimate Deck Podcast. Need a show about outdoor living? This is where it's at with your hosts, Shane Chapman and Way Laurent. Thank you for tuning in. Now let the show begin. Yeah. The Ultimate Deck Podcast. Let's go.
Well, we made it back.
We made it back
To the hometown studio located live in Regina, chuckle inserted, Saskatchewan.
Why did you yawn?
Because it was a long trip. And
why?
I knew we were going to talk about that right away. And because I am sleep deprived. Wade. That's why.
Sleep deprived.
People say the reason they like the podcast is because we be real. So I am exhausted. Put on a smiley face for this shit. I don't think so. Happy birthday to Simcoe. Dex turned 35 yesterday. Woo!
What?
Did you see what he did for his birthday?
35?
Probably would have seen that in the Simcoe News if we were still doing that. They probably would have had
Oh,
an
yeah.
article.
It might
Probably.
be front pager in
Front page.
Simcoe News.
I did see what he did. It looks like he went through a set of locks and he was hanging out with his buddy Kev.
Oh, look at Corey says 186 was the camo episode. Here's where Corey doesn't know how this whole thing works.
Those are sponsored. They don't count.
They don't count.
Oh,
They're
Corey.
sponsored.
They're
Isn't
just
he supposed to be
sponsored.
here right away?
Yep.
So this is 186.
This is the real 186.
Yeah. Did you see that Mike from Simcoe and Kevin from
And FDI.
Home Alone went?
Dude, he lives like he's home alone.
I'm convinced that he actually is a real life Kevin McAllister.
Yeah.
Just like Home Alone with all the riches, like loaded,
Yeah.
got all the toys,
Yeah.
and nobody's supervising him.
Yep.
So
Maybe Simcoe was supervising him
yeah,
yesterday.
maybe. Anyways, they went out on the boat yesterday, and I've never seen this before in my life. Maybe I'm living a sheltered life, but they have I don't know what they were calling it. It is like some sort of train they were calling it. It is a
Well, it's a set of locks, essentially. So they drive onto it, and then the thing comes out of the water and moves them to a
I
higher
have
body.
never seen this.
Yeah,
You've
higher
never
body of
seen
water.
that?
I've never seen that.
But it's not like the normal traditional locks, like what you're thinking. They don't like drive in and then fill it with water. It's like you drive in and then the bridge comes out of the water.
Yeah.
And then carries you on a flat plank to a new set of
on
water.
a big
and then-
rail.
and then drops below and
Wow.
Puts you in the water
Good to
again.
go.
That's fancy.
it's pretty cool.
Right?
That's really fancy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would just give her
You just
full throttle and ramp it.
pin it,
Yeah. I'm sure you could make it.
jump the line.
Bottom of your boat might be a little bit worse for wear than if you just took the train thing. The lock?
The train thing.
Well, it's like that's what it does. It's
It rides on a rail. It's a train.
okay, sure. I don't want to be too confrontational today, so I'll agree with you.
Oh, I feel like you're about to be.
It's hard to tell if those are real or fake. you know?
That's the best part.
Is that my laugh? It's fantastic.
That is your laugh.
That is funny. I actually didn't know if I just did that or not. I was like, did I just laugh?
Yeah, it
That's
was
great.
you.
That's great. Anyway, we're back from Steel, Sharpened Steel,
Yeah.
Mount Pleasant, Texas at Extreme Backyard and Beyond, where we spent all of 30 hours last week there.
Did you add that up? Did you actually do that?
Oh, why did you go for it? Well, no, but like 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then we left the next night at 9.
Okay.
So what is that?
pretty quick
6? That is 30 hours.
Yeah, in Mount Pleasant. Yeah.
It's exactly 30 hours.
We slept in every hotel once except for Toronto. But technically we had different rooms.
Yeah. Yeah. We had 2 different experiences in Toronto.
Yeah, the beds were on the opposite side in the second room.
So here's what the plan was. The plan was leave Sunday,
Everybody's got a plan
fly into Toronto
until you get punched in the face.
on Sunday, meet up with our friends Jason Meyer from Fortress, Mike from Simcoe Dex, watch some hockey game on the TV, have a couple drinks, go to our cozy hotel room, wake up the next morning, catch a flight to Dallas. That was the plan.
That was the plan.
Play golf.
We managed to do the first part of that almost flawlessly. We got on our flight here in Regina. We flew to Toronto, no problem.
No problem.
Met up with Mike, met up with Jason, watched the hockey game,
Yeah.
went to our beds. All of that went without any hiccups. Just
Yeah.
really smoothly.
No unexpected
Set
things
the tone
happen.
for the rest of the trip.
Exactly.
Our flight was at 7 o'clock in the morning from Toronto to Dallas.
That's a really good time for a flight. I've taken 5 a.m. flights, so 7's a really nice time.
I don't mind. Like if that was a 7 a.m. flight out of Regina, I'd be perfectly fine with that because you know that you you could show up an hour and a half before and you're good.
It's a great
So to
flight.
be at the
Right.
airport,
Hour and a half, no problem.
5:30, no problem. So we had heard, and the reason we were going because the event didn't start till Tuesday. The reason we were going Sunday was so we could golf with a few of the guys that we were meeting up with down at the event and go golfing with them at 11 o'clock on Monday.
Correct.
We had heard that there was a bit of congestion
A little bit.
at the airport, but we were advised by locals that taking
And
Terminal 3 American Airlines would be much better than taking Air Canada out of Terminal 1.
American Airlines said arrive 3 hours early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they said, so we did.
We totally did.
We
We were
stayed
there
the
right on
same-
time.
We stayed in the same hotel as Jason and Mike, same bed as Jason and Mike. Woke
Well,
up together,
yeah.
spooning with Jason and Mike.
I didn't. I stayed in a different room. It's weird.
All went
you end
down
up in
to
that
the
room?
airport. The hotel was attached to the terminal. You walked across this short little gate.
It was literally 2 minutes.
You were in the
We were
terminal.
we were in the right terminal.
4 o'clock. We roll in there.
AM.
This place is a fucking zoo already.
It's
It is
insane.
packed in there.
Yep.
There's lineups for days. You can't tell what lineup is for what. There's
No.
just like parallel lineups of things that then like snake around other things and go to other places. You're like, what the hell lineup are we supposed to be in? There's hardly anybody there to even ask. So you're asking people in the lines and hoping that they know what line they're in.
They don't want to tell you because
Yeah.
what if you're in the right line?
Beat it, Capper.
That's right.
That's right.
We find what appears to be the American Airlines line
Check it.
because we've got bags to check. We got some big stuff. We got our podcast equipment. We got our golf clubs. We got to drop these off.
Yep.
We get in the line. It's a long line.
Very long line.
The lineup for security longer.
Yep.
Because security's not open yet. There's a reason. We're like, oh, okay. Well, that'll dwindle down. We were in that line
What
for
time does security open at?
4:30.
Exactly.
We were in the line for the American Airlines for over an hour to
Yep.
get our bags to get to the counter
Yep.
to like have them weigh our bags and tag them and everything else. Okay. Flight's not till 7. No problem.
No problem. It's only
we
5
find
o'clock.
out later from calling somebody that we had checked in at the counter at 5:13. So we were there for a little over an hour.
Yep.
But then it took more time to actually drop the bags. We had to go to the oversized baggage and wait for somebody to help us there and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got into the security line. And at this time, the security line was significantly reduced because it was open now.
I mean, it looked smaller. I
It'd
don't
been
know if
open
it's
for-
significantly reduced.
It had been
this
open
time.
for 45 minutes.
Visually,
Yeah, because it snaked down
moved-
it
3
looked
hallways.
better than it did an hour before.
Well,
Yep.
They just moved into a different room. They just moved to the next room, right? Where
They're
it
just
was like,
really
Yep.
good at hiding them now.
so they hid all of these people in the next room.
So we get into the security line. We think, not bad. Doesn't look too bad. Find out that it actually snakes into this unknown area.
Yep.
And back there, there's 100 more people. So it's like, shit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Finally get away into the security room, which is packed. It's snaking all the way through. There's, I don't know how many, for sure not all the lanes open, but there was
Most of the lanes were
enough
open.
lanes open that we weren't panicking yet.
Nope. We had 2 hours.
We spent an hour in that line, or 45 minutes in that line. Got to the front, got through security, fine-ish
Mm-hmm.
after the wait. Got into the customs line. Oh no.
No.
Did not look promising when we got in there. Walked into this room that holds probably 1,000 people, and it was like all 1,000 of them were in there.
Yep.
Snaked right to the back of the room. We're like, okay, shit. Now it's 6 o'clock. Flight's at 7.
Yeah.
Okay, we're still okay, right?
We got a
Like,
chance.
this is the last step, so we should be able to get our way through here. So for the first couple rows, I was kind of like mentally checking and being like, okay, we got through this line. And then when we turned to the U-turn, that took about 5 minutes. And we took about 5 minutes to come back. And it's like, okay, each line that we have to snake through is only 5 minutes. I think we'll be okay. How many lines are there? 1, 2, 3. Boy, this goes back quite a ways. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20. Oh, shit.
We're not going to make it.
20 lines.
We
Yeah,
got
at
it.
least times 5.
Just a touch over 100 minutes here, and our flight leaves in 40.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what do? We're patiently waiting.
Yep.
People are
Bomb.
starting to get antsy.
We should have yelled bomb.
Yeah, that would have got some people out of line.
Would have got attention.
Would have cleared out maybe just enough. Our friends Jason and Mike had no bags to check. Therefore, they were ahead of us by probably 20 minutes in the line, or maybe, well, probably more than that, because
More than
we were
that,
in the
an
line
hour.
for maybe an hour. And then we saw our other friend, Gordon South from Wood Bully, While we were waiting in American Airlines, he went zipping through in the security line too. So he was ahead of us, but not as much. He was only 20 minutes ahead or so.
Yeah.
So we're in the line. It's taken a long time, and people are starting to get pretty panicky. Like everybody around us is on our flight or on similar flights that leave at the same time or earlier.
Yeah.
So people are starting to get a little restless. This line's not moving very fast. It's flowing, but it's just like it's a big line.
Yep.
Somebody cuts the line. All hell breaks loose. People are pissed off now. People are yelling at people. Tensions are high. Then Mike starts texting us, and he's like, "We're on the plane. Where are you guys?" Oh boy.
We're not on the plane.
We're not on the plane.
We're still a few rows back at this point while he's updating us, and he's already on the plane. Now it's like 6:30, 6:40, and we're like, shit. Well, there's no way, right?
We got 4 rows left to go or something.
We're talking to ourselves. We're like, there's no way they'll hold the plane. There's a bunch of people here.
50 people, give or take.
Or somebody will come back. An agent will come back and be like, excuse me, who's on 1169 to Dallas?
Need you to
It's
leave.
leaving. I need you to get to the front of the line and get through here. That'll happen. Because we watched that happen to one other person. Some agent came up and grabbed 2 people. You're like, look, see, that gives me confidence they're going to do that for us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. I'm not worried anymore then. The plane's going nowhere, even though we should be through here right now. So we get to within two rows of the front, and Mike texts again. He's like, shit, dudes, they just closed the doors. And now it's 7, close to 7. We're still in the
7
line.
or 7:03 or something, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, man, we're still 2 rows back.
I think I was at customs at this time. I
You
was
might
just
have
about to walk through.
You might have had an agent because you were a row ahead of us.
Yeah.
And then Mike texts again. His next text was, I just saw them throw your golf clubs back off the plane. Like they unloaded our shit. And we're like, no way. This is not happening.
Well, that's going to be super inconvenient. They're going to have to put those back on the plane. I'm about to come through here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Bryce is through. I think we determined it was 7:02 or something that you got through customs.
And I ran to the gate.
And you ran to the gate, which was like 2 minutes away. You run.
Yep.
Too late.
Closed.
We don't get through till 7:15. The rest of us 3 are standing together. We get through, and it's like at that point, it's already like I know when the customs guy's like, "Where are you headed?" I was like, "Well, I was supposed to go to Dallas, but I believe that we just missed our flight." He doesn't give 2 shits. He's like, "Sounds good. Have a good flight."
Sounds
No,
good.
you didn't hear me. I'm not getting a flight. There's no flight today for me. Okay,
I'm not going to make it.
but I'll be sure to pass along your friendly little message to the rest of my friends that are on the goddamn plane. So we get through, and we run, and like we're pissed off at these people that cut the line. They end up on the same flight as us. They're still dickheads to this day.
He's not wrong.
We go to the flight gate just to be like, ask like, now what?
Where do we go from here?
They're like, go back to A10 where there's another giant lineup of people who also missed that flight. They're all pissed off and need to rebook now. I was like,
That was
good.
the slowest moving line.
Right, because they had 2 people working it, and you knew that every single person that needed to rebook, it was going to be complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you trying to go? How do you need to get there? Like, all the flights are booked, so how do we do it? So every person in line, we're probably 50th in line, and we're like, oh, man, this is 3-hour line up here. Like, we're not getting on a flight today. By the time we can get to the front, they're going to be full, they're going to be gone, like, no chance.
It was actually, we were talking about whether we'd make the flights the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, there was no guarantee we were getting down there at all. So we sat in that line for hour and a half or something before everything that we did took an hour and a half. We determined this. Till somebody comes through because the line's just not moving.
Not moving.
This lady comes by and she hands out. We sent you guys for breakfast. We sent Bryce because nobody had eaten yet. We've been up since 3, at the line since 4. Nobody's eaten anything yet. Sent Bryce and Kyler for breakfast. We're like, you guys go for breakfast. We'll wait in the line. When you're done, come back. We'll go because like this line's gonna be long enough to do that. In the meantime, they bring these cards. They're like, phone this number because the flights are all filling up and like,
okay.
You're not gonna get to the front before it's over. Okay. So we phone this line. Wade talks to this person. They're like, sounds good. There's no flights today. We can't get you on anything. Wade kept his composure like a friendly little Canadian would. She's like, we can put you on the same flight tomorrow morning.
You think I want to be on that
You
flight?
think I want to do this shit again, hey? You want,
I
you
was
want me
like-
to do this whole thing again?
I think at one point I was negotiating like 3 hours. Like I was happy with a 3-hour driving distance. And then we ended up as high as 6 hours of driving distance from Dallas. It was like, land me within 6 hours of driving to Dallas. And if you can do that today, I'll take that flight. And they're like,
No.
we got nothing.
Not doing that.
You can go to Charlotte. We can get you to Charlotte. And I was like, well, that's more than 6 hours of driving. She was like, well, that's where you can go today. I was like, no, I'm not going there.
Right.
So then we're like, what do we do? Like, what if this all happens again tomorrow and we don't make the flight down there? And now we spent hotel rooms again and we waited for another flight and we dicked around again. Like, Do we just turn around and go home at this point? Like, can we even get a flight to Regina?
No.
So she's like, well,
You're in Toronto. You're stuck here for indeterminate amount of time.
Toronto is purgatory.
Yeah. How do you think it got so big? Well, it makes sense now.
Everybody missed their flight. That's how Toronto was
7
born.
million people missed flights. That's how.
Go anywhere.
That's the history of
Anyways,
Toronto.
there's a building right over here. You could just move into it for, would you pay $450 a night for your hotel? How about you could pay $200 a night and live in this place?
Yeah.
And if you want a job, airport's hiring.
Yeah, we could hire you, and that
You could fill multiple roles, actually.
Exactly.
that's how Toronto was built. That's what you're right.
Yeah. People got there and couldn't get out.
They wouldn't let them out.
Wouldn't let them out.
But not like they wouldn't let them out. They gave them false hope day after day after
Right.
day. And then people were like, F this. I'll live here.
So the lady offers to rebook us on the flight for the next day at the same time.
Very nice lady, by the way.
Nope.
No, we're on the
phone.
phone.
Oh, on the phone.
I only
She
assumed
also-
she was nice.
She was good because I didn't swear at her.
Right.
Yeah.
She's like, here's the deal. I can get you 4 seats on tomorrow's flight at 7 a.m., 11:69 to Dallas. Sounds good. That's going to be an extra $240 per person. Excuse me? What do you mean?
What?
What do you mean it's going to be an extra $240 per person? Well, tomorrow's flight's more expensive. Yeah, but through no fault of our own, we missed today's flight. You can't just put us on that flight?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I can't do that. You might have to talk to somebody else to do that. Okay, whatever. Can you hold these flights for us? Yeah, we can hold the flights for you. Okay. Now, and Wade did all the booking. It's his story, but he's really quiet. So Wade had booked these flights originally to come back through Toronto, and then had some sort of like gut feeling maybe that was like, that's a bad idea. We should come back through Calgary. So rebooked the flights.
Yeah, because I had seen a bunch of information about how awful Toronto was, and I was like, well, if we come back through Calgary and something happens, then we could at least drive home.
That's drivable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Drive home from there. 6
So they
hours.
changed the flights,
It's
and
the 6 hour window that I can drive. It's like, I can
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
he changed the flights before any of this earlier to come back through Calgary, like weeks before. And so that resulted in us each having a $281 credit to our names. So each of the 4 flights. So Wade's like, okay, fine. Can we just book that flight for tomorrow and just apply my $281 credit I have to the $240 that you're trying to charge me now to get on that same flight? No, sorry, we can't do that. Why? Why now? Why can't you do that? Well, because that credit has to be used towards a future flight. This flight is tomorrow. That's
Tomorrow.
the future. Use the credit.
Yeah. Do you know what today is?
No,
It's
sorry.
the past.
It has to be for an entirely new trip.
It is.
How does that
Excuse
make
me?
any
That's
sense?
what I said to her. I was like, well, it is a new trip. We were supposed to go on our trip yesterday.
Yeah.
Now tomorrow is a new trip because that one didn't happen. She was like, it can't be done. I was like, well, that's not actually true. It can be done. I know how this works.
Yeah.
You just click a button.
Won't be done.
Right. You should say won't be done. Yeah. So anyways, it did not happen.
So
We
she
didn't
wouldn't
use
do
those
that.
credits.
So what she was willing to do,
Reserve the
she was
seats.
super helpful.
She reserved the seats.
She reserved the seats
That was good enough.
until we could get to the front of the line that we were currently standing in to talk to an agent there to see if they were willing to give us a straight across trade and not charge the $240. So we waited in that line for longer till we finally got to the front, met this little lady there. She was great. She came up. She's like, who's next in line? We're like, we are. She's like, come over to this line over here. I'll be with you in a second. She came over. What are you guys trying to do? Well, we're trying to get back. We're trying to get to Dallas. We just missed our flight. Yeah, you and everybody else in line. I can't get you there today. Okay. When can you get us there? Tomorrow. There's flights reserved for you for tomorrow morning. We asked the same thing. Can you get us within 6 hours of Dallas? Can you land us anywhere within 6 hours? We'll rent a car. We'll drive there. Sorry, she looks nothing available within 6 hours of Dallas. How about 8? Can you do 8 hours?
Anytime.
Can you just get us within a day's drive of Dallas? Nope, we can't. The only thing we can do is put you on tomorrow's flight at 7 a.m. How can you guarantee us that we don't show up here tomorrow and go through this whole same crap again and then end up in the same situation?
Mm-hmm.
I can't guarantee that. But I start work at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. You come find me. I'm going to check you in right now. You come find me at 3. I will help you check your bags. I'll get you on. We'll get you into the security line sooner. Okay.
You might get through.
What time is the security line open tomorrow? 4:30. Okay, so whether we get it here at 4 or 3, it's still closed. We're still in the line waiting for it. Yeah, that's right. But I'll try to get you in sooner.
But you want to be at the front of the closed line,
Right.
not the end of the closed line.
Mm-hmm.
So she was great. that's what we did. We're like, okay, I guess we're stuck in Toronto. We can't, like, there's no option here. We can't get out anywhere.
Yep.
So we went back to the hotel we stayed at, and we're like, hi, we need 2 more rooms. We're like, sounds good. That's $100 more a night than you paid last night. Yeah, of course. It's whatever. Ring the card. Like, now it's $450 a night for 1 room.
Right.
We shared rooms. We booked 2 rooms. So now we're down $1,000 because of this. And then we're like, well, let's make the most of it. I guess we're here in Toronto. So we went and did some Toronto things. We went downtown, hung out for a bit. Wade and I went to a ball game. You guys went back. I crashed. We made a new plan, get up at 3 the next day, go back to the airport. Let's do this whole shit again. Because they wouldn't let us stay in the airport. Like, you can't stay on this side of security. Not allowed. You have to go back, pick up all your baggage, recheck it. Okay, sounds good. So next day, we show up at 3 now to do this whole thing again. Thankfully, we found her. And she did help us get checked in a little bit quicker and skip at least the first line.
Yep.
And we got into security. Wait. Got into customs. The line was half as long the next day, so everything went a little bit smoother. I heard people yelling at the American Airlines people the day before in that rebook line, being like, why wouldn't you guys hold the plane? You knew that there was 50 people in customs that were right at the front line. Why wouldn't you? Sorry, sir, we can't do that. That's not our... We can't control anything other than the plane itself, and we can't control when it leaves, whatever. We get on the plane the next day. The plane does not close the doors till 7:15.
Yeah, it helped.
Had they just done that the day before,
We all would have
those
made
people would have got on. No deal. So we get to Dallas.
it. Whoa.
You're going to tell the whole story?
Yeah.
Well,
Is this
been-
podcast
it's all
just
important.
a
It's
story?
been,
It
it's been
is.
20 minutes.
We talked about this.
Okay.
We get to Dallas. It's fine. Dallas Airport's great. We get out. We get on a shuttle to go over to the... Because now we've also screwed up our travel plans with the rental cars. We missed our golf game. Now we're hauling on golf clubs for no reason. Missed our golf game. Still got to carry the clubs around. We have a car booked, but it's just a small car for Bryce and Tyler
Tiny little car.
to go. Because you
I'm
and
a
I are
tiny
going to be
little
going with
guy.
somebody else.
In their bigger vehicle that
In
was
the bigger
carrying
vehicle.
clubs.
So we get to the car rental mall. We walk in, and what a sigh of relief. There's no lineup. For the first time in our
Zero
trip,
line.
there's no line. There's like one person at the Hertz desk and like one person behind them and multiple people working. We're like, oh, sweet, we'll be right in. So we get up to the front. We all wait back, waiting for this to transpire. Well, like fast forward, it took 90 minutes. For reasons unknown, I don't know why, but eventually we had to change the name under the car to your
Car's
name.
under
We
my
had to get a
name,
different vehicle.
Wade.
We had
Yeah.
a bigger vehicle. And then, lo and behold, $900.
Hour and a half, $900 later.
No. Sorry, you have the wrong receipt. That's what we paid for the hotel last night. $900 to get a vehicle to take us to Dallas. So that, whatever. Fine. We finally get it. Now we're super late. We're missing the event now. Not just golf. We're missing the actual event we're supposed to be at.
Yep.
We get in this vehicle. It's great. It's a monster. There's room for all of our shit.
Beautiful.
We're in it. Now we're driving. We're in control of our own destiny. Hit the road. Let's rock and roll.
We're flying.
We hit it at a gas station at Burger King. We grab some food. We're on the highway. And we're like, boys, we're on our way.
We're
And they're
on
like,
our way.
When are you going to be here? GPS says 2:40. Oh, that's really late, but good. Okay, I'm glad you're on your way. Sounds good. We'll see you at 2:40. We're 20 minutes outside of Mount Pleasant, and we start seeing construction signs that say 1 mile ahead. 5 times in a row, then there's no construction.
And we're doing 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, at best, right? Like, we're stopped a bunch of times, too.
Yeah.
We're like stalled in traffic, this lineup, we don't know why. Finally, like miles ahead, this set us back 30 minutes. This flight. We had to text the guys again. We're like, not 2:40. How long? I don't know.
We don't know.
Probably 90 minutes.
Later.
Like, no idea. So this set us back a half an hour going through this traffic. We finally get through, and now we're like, okay, well, geez, Mount Pleasant's like right there. Now we're on the other side.
Oh,
of
look,
this
we can see it.
construction. Yeah, we're like, okay, we're through. Nothing short of a swarm of locusts can stop us now, but don't rule that out at this point. It's entirely possible. So we finally got there at 3:00 on Tuesday. We were supposed to be there at 9:00 on Monday.
Yeah.
3:00 we rolled in. The decks are framed and it's all over.
The guys are packing up for the day.
It's all the stuff we wanted to go and see and film
Yep.
and whatever is all done. So that was our so we go to the event. We missed it all.
Yeah.
We schmoozed for a little bit.
Not over yet.
Kyler and Bryce go and shoot some video. And then it's 5:00. People are like, all right, supper time. We're all going back to supper. Okay, now we'll go check into our hotel because we skipped that part
Oh, yeah.
because we just wanted to get there faster. We go to our hotel. We're like, we're here to check in. We canceled your rooms. Yeah, you did. You got a pillow and a blanket? I'm sleeping in
I'll
the lobby.
sleep anywhere.
What a comedy of errors. So, anyways, we ended up getting a couple rooms, 3 rooms.
We got 3.
And we got there. And then, so the event was great.
The event was great.
I think it really was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was so short.
But I would like...
We were there for a day, and then we packed up, went back to Dallas, stayed in a hotel, and flew out the next day. And I had a much better experience at the Dallas airport.
But we also drove to the wrong hotel before we stayed in that hotel.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't drive to the wrong hotel. We dropped Jason off at the right hotel.
That's right.
Which
That's
he
right.
didn't know he was at, so he was also thinking he was at the wrong hotel.
Can you believe how lucky it is that he was like, I should actually walk in and just double check that this isn't my hotel. Because you imagine if he was like, oh yeah, crap, wrong hotel. And then went with us to the other one.
Yeah.
And then got in there and was like, yeah, sorry, you don't actually have a room here. It's at the other one.
So
he
I'm
would have been
sure-
like, I would have left him the vehicle.
Sheer paranoia of our experience getting down here. I was like, Wade, because the first hotel in Toronto was like, it was attached to the airport. It was great. Wade, where's the hotel that we're staying in Dallas? Like, how early do we have to get up to leave over there? He's like, well, it's right beside the terminal again. Okay, sounds good. So when we got there, we like enter the airport. It's like, there's the airport, there's the terminal. Just got to drive to the hotel. And we're driving for like,
It was a half an hour.
I was gonna say like a half hour, and I'm like, this is wild. And Jason Meyer came back to this from Fortress, looked it up on his phone. He's like, oh, it's right there. It's only
0.4 miles.
2 inches away from where we need to be. Sounds good. So, and we're all staying at the same hotel, or so we thought. So we get to this with a Holiday Inn or something.
It was like,
Doesn't matter, but
it's called like Holiday Inn Express South and Holiday Inn Express North.
right.
And so we, like the one that first popped up on my phone for GPS was South. So I was like, oh, it must be that. Click. 30 minutes away. So we drove there.
Mm-hmm.
And got out. And Wade goes in,
Hi, I'm Wade.
and he's at the
Pleasure to meet you.
counter. And
You're from the deck shop. I was like, I am from the deck shop. Nah, it didn't happen.
that sounded smooth.
Yeah.
We get out, and like, I grabbed a bag and then stopped. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to wait. And you were kind of grabbing
I was
stuff.
like,
You're
oh, let's we're here.
You're like, what are you doing? I was like, well,
What's your last name? Give him my last name.
I want to make sure first.
I don't have anything. Well, yeah, no, of course you do. You have something. It's like, it's booked. Here's my confirmation number. And open the email up and hand to him. He's like, oh, yeah, you're at the other hotel. I was like, what other hotel?
What other hotel?
The north one. I was like, no, like it just told me to come. GPS told me to come to this one. He was like, well, there's another one. Go to that one. Fine. Where is it? It's like right beside the hotel or right beside the airport. I was like, of course it is.
Cool.
And this is all happening late. Like this is
midnight.
This is midnight or 11. I'm supposed to have the vehicle back for 11:30. That's not happening. It's going to be like 12:30 by the time I get that back. Anyways,
We all load back into the vehicle,
and then
we're
Jason at the very last second.
just had a hunch. I wonder if I should check and
I
see
should
if mine
check.
is here. We were about to take him back to the other hotel. His was there.
Anyways,
So left Jason behind.
Dallas
our
Airport has
hotel.
got their snot together.
That's great.
Man, you
Yep.
walk in, it is like they have signs that have time for your lines that you're in. It's like your next checkpoint will be this many minutes, and if you go to a different line, that checkpoint is this many minutes, and like you can tell. What a novel idea!
Yeah.
you know. Anyways, Toronto's got
Toronto right now,
Shit,
like I've never had problems at the Toronto airport before, but it's clearly in shambles right now. Like it's just unbelievable.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
pretty
just
terrible.
reminds me. I saw this Joe Biden clip the other day. It was like a
where he
meme,
fell off the bicycle.
meme video. Not that one. He's like, America can be described in one word.
Yeah,
I was like, sorry. I was like, what was that supposed to be? That's Toronto Airport right now. Okay, well, the reason I delayed that is because I don't want to even talk about what we're talking about next. Because last time we did a podcast about this, we had a couple drinks and then
I want to preface that with the last time we did a podcast about this, we weren't even talking about this.
yeah, that's right.
what?
It wasn't.
We were
it wasn't
talking
based
about a
on this.
completely different topic, and
Serious?
It turned
it
into
went
this.
off into
Yeah, that's true,
this.
that's right.
Wow. Oh yeah, it was like a top 10 list or something like that. And the number 7 was like a permit, and then we just got into it. So the backstory here
What
is
side are you taking on this?
don't you worry about it.
Are we
The
going to be friends
backstory,
after this? When this is all done, are we going to be friends?
unlikely. It's a good thing we're golfing, so we can rebuild that if that happens.
We'll just deal with this later.
So was that a button again? God, that's fantastic.
He pulled 4 clips
That's
off.
fantastic.
He's got one from Gord that I'm really excited about.
So we're talking about decks falling off houses again today. but intentionally this time and with no alcohol involved.
Speak for yourself.
Even though we could all use a drink. So a couple years ago, this happened, and the USMC jumped in. It's the builder's fault right now. You want to know what ditch Scott's in? That one. A couple years ago, in 2020, there was a pretty severe deck collapse that happened in Regina. These happen all over the place for a variety of reasons. This one was a textbook case. It was a second-story walkout, unfortunately, and people were injured on it, unfortunately. And that all happened, and it just ended up in the news again, like yesterday.
Because
July 4th.
Why is it back in the news? Are they back in court right now? Is that what's happening?
I think so.
Kind of, yeah. It's the legal stuff is all happening now, right? So this deck was, call it 11, 12 feet in the air. It was a couple, 2 people on it. That's it. The homeowners.
Yeah.
I'm not sure their age, but I think they're like kind of 60s, I'll say. He's a professor at the university. I'm not sure what she did. They go out on the deck to enjoy. They've got, the picture shows they've got like a bistro set, essentially, like a little wicker bistro set and a barbecue, I think. And then them two. And the decks, I don't know how big the deck is. What, 12 by 12, maybe?
It might be a little bit bigger than that, but sure.
Not a huge deck.
Nope.
And so they're sitting there, and as the article describes it, they started to hear some odd noises coming from beneath.
Creaking, right?
And,
okay.
And the lady went to the edge of the deck to look over to see, like, what's that
Why
sound?
is that?
And then, too late. She kind of went over, looked back, and came back. He's like, what is that? And all of a sudden, boom, the deck collapses. It fell from the house. It stayed erect at the beam and the posts out front. So it literally just like hinged and slammed down into the ground, and all that stuff that was on the deck crashed on top of them, and they got like pinned against the house. She ended up with a broken ankle, broken heel bone, some fractures there.
Some
Blood,
bruising.
she's cut up,
Yeah.
she's bleeding. He sounded like he kind of walked away from it a little bit in better shape.
Sounds like he maybe grabbed her and then like used her as a shield.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Stucco,
Save yourself.
Stucco, that's gonna hurt. So that all happened. It's now years later. They're finding out that she's got permanent damage. They're saying that she's got I can't remember what the first thing was that they said. They said that probably arthritis will set in at some point in her ankle. She had some permanent movement issues. She can't rotate her entire movement, and
irregular gait.
Right.
So her step is off.
Walk will be different now for the rest of her life. So she's got some permanent damage from this thing. She also acquired some PTSD, I'd say, from this incident, and moved back to Toronto, or moved to Toronto, and the husband stayed here. And so now they're not even living apart. She doesn't want to come back to the house. It's like mentally she's not okay with it.
So like, I don't want to sound super insensitive, but
you're gonna, like, as soon as you say that,
here it comes. But when I read that article, I was like, is this, like, does that seem logical to you? Does that seem like a bit of a play to get some more money?
I don't know if it's about the money, but sure. See, it feels like enforcing the victim.
This is a victim
position
play.
Yeah.
It's like,
but
so
you know what? I've never had a deck collapse and have that flash before my face or my eyes, so I guess I can't say.
Right. Okay. I have had a significant injury. I cut my thumb off with a table saw.
And
when I walk past,
since.
no, I use them all the time.
You do not.
I use them. I use them all the time. I actually use the same table saw.
Yeah.
All the time.
Hoping that it'll slap it back on.
Put it back on.
You use it in reverse. Swap. Some kid. Holy, would you look at that?
Oh man!
To phone WCB.
Boys.
Phone said WCB and send them their money back. You're like, you're not gonna believe this.
Yeah.
But I put the saw in reverse. Yeah. So anyways, it's
turns out it didn't. It just stuck to my chin.
Oh,
why? Like, yeah, it just seems like a bit of like the victim play.
I mean, that happens in courts, in legal battles, right? USMC, a veteran that has actually had some shit going on.
Yeah.
Is like PTSD from a deck. Okay.
That's cute, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, did she have to move? Probably. Anyways.
To be fair, I said PTSD. They didn't say it in the article. They just said that she was too traumatized, basically, to want to come back and live in Regina again. So,
yeah.
Regardless, this happened. Now it's in the news again because I guess the legal process is proceeding. The home builder immediately was like, not me. Right away, it was just like, this happened. It was like, no, not our fault. The homeowner must not have maintained the deck properly. Keep in mind, 5 years. Built in 2015,
it's a brand
fell
new
in
house.
2020.
Yeah.
The deck wasn't up there that long. They wanted to like wash their hands of this and be like, not our fault.
Right.
Which I think that there's actually an argument for if all of the proper processes were followed to have that deck built. But turns out they were not. There was no, at least from what they said, they can't find any record in the last 5 years since the deck was built that a permit was ever pulled on the deck. So now, I believe not so cut and dried that it's not your fault. It was subcontracted to a construction company, Regina, that actually built it, and so
that's not uncommon. That's
right.
That's a super common
standard for a home
every
builder.
single house that's been built by a home builder is done via subcontract.
Subcontracted.
Yeah. Especially with larger ones like this, right? Like these guys pump out a lot of homes. So the homeowners are suing the home builder.
Mm-hmm.
The home builder, I don't know what you call it, but they were like, okay, that's fine. But also the subcontractor is going to get listed in this lawsuit now as well, as is the city of Regina, because the rest of the house was obviously inspected, but not the deck because they didn't pull a permit for the deck.
Like obviously inspected?
Yes, because
I would believe that there's an argument to be made that the inspector didn't do anything. Period.
Sorry. There was a permit and there was a occupancy permit, is my understanding, for the house. That part apparently was
they were
done.
living there, so they had been granted an occupancy
right.
permit.
So in theory, that part was done. But the fact that there wasn't a permit pulled on the basement nor the deck is what I read in this article. There was no sign off on basement or deck.
Yeah.
So the inspector was there, signed off on something, just not the basement or the deck.
Signed off on what was on his docket of things to look at that day.
Right.
I guess.
Okay.
But failed to look into whether the deck had a permit. Was was obviously not part of the build, not part of the original permit for the house, and failed to identify that. I guess.
Yeah.
Didn't look.
No, but like on the paper that he has, like his checklist, he'll have like inspect like framing. He'll have like a list of framing items he needs to check.
Yeah.
But he also has a set of plans for the house that were submitted to the city. And on those plans, that deck will be there.
Yeah, the
There
deck
is
would have been on the plans.
Absolutely zero chance that I don't care. It's in the news. There's zero chance that they.
If you only had any idea how hard I've been trying to not say names.
I know. I did know.
It's a public article.
It's a public article, and so it's
yeah.
not. So there's no chance that the deck was not on that set of plans. And so when that got submitted to the city, if there was not a permit for the deck, I think the city is responsible for that. And the reason I think they're responsible is the deck was on the drawings that were submitted to the city. And so then they need to include that as part of the build. That's something that's what's happening at that building. They're putting walls up and they're putting a roof on.
But there's certainly
putting
many
a deck there.
instances where that deck doesn't get built at the same time, but it's on the plans. We've seen that here a bunch. People come in, their house is built, they're ready to go, they're building their deck, and they've got their original blueprints, and it's like, here's the deck we're building.
Certainly.
But it never got built at the time. It was just planned for.
Do you think that the authority figure at that time should ask if that's being built or not? Is it the city's responsibility to ask at that time because it's on the plans? Are you going to build this right now or not? Who has to divulge that information?
The person applying for the permit, in my opinion, is more responsible to be telling you what they're applying for.
So then what's the reason for?
I think in this scenario, they're all at fault. Like we sat here in that podcast and
they are all
jammered on for 45 minutes about trying to point out like who is the one that's at fault. In this case,
but in a legal
it's got to
battle,
be all of them,
in a legal,
except for the homeowner. To clarify, because
it's not the
Yeah.
homeowner's
the
fault.
home
Not
builder
their
originally
fault.
tried to say it's their fault. It's not
No.
their fault.
It's not their fault.
And then, so
I think it's the city's fault. I think ultimately it comes down to the person that says this is good.
So here's why the deck fell, if this changes anybody's opinion, and we all know.
We all know
We knew
why.
as soon as we saw the picture what the fail point was. We've talked about it probably on 18 different podcasts. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Shockingly, the ledger board wasn't attached properly. Shockingly,
Shocking.
the ledger board was spiked in with
Smooth.
interior grade, non-galvanized, smooth shank nails. Didn't say that in the article. That's what happened. What did say in the article was that it was only nailed in and was not structurally connected with lag screws or structural connectors.
Right.
The company who built the house framed the deck.
Right. So the ledger board came away from the house.
Right. We've said this 1,000 times. They don't change the magazine and nails they have in their gun. They just build the next thing. Pop. Slap that ledger board on.
Here's another reason that I think the inspector failed this whole thing. You just said it. The framer framed that deck at the exact same time he was framing the house. I know they did.
Yeah.
I know
That's an assumption, but it's a really rock solid one.
Yep.
Like we're only assuming that happened, but of course it happened.
Of course it happened because they framed the house, and at the time of framing, they framed the deck. They have their telehandler there, and they have all of their people, and they got all of the material.
Yeah, especially on a taller deck like that, right?
Yep. So they don't frame the house, stucco everything, finish it all, then come back 6 to 8 months later or more, and then build the deck. And that's not how row housing works.
Yep. And there's zero chance they would have gotten an occupancy permit without railing on that deck. So the deck would have to be done.
Oh,
or the door boarded.
There's 100% chance that the inspector who inspected the framing of the house saw that that deck was framed.
Yep.
100% chance because the door has glass in it. And the windows also are made of glass, not plywood.
That's taking a bit of a leap. You don't know that for sure.
He can see the deck.
Whether I'm right or not is irrelevant.
Gord, what bullet? You're on the podcast. You're indefinitely famous now. Welcome to episode 2.
That's where I think this all falls apart. It all falls apart at the framing inspection. Also, you said there's no basement permit?
There was,
It's a walkout basement,
the basement
guys.
was also not approved.
Oh, yeah, okay. It was like, well, this house is mythically floating here. How fantastic is this? Because I didn't approve the basement.
We'll just deal with this later.
That's what he did. That's exactly what the
100 episodes, he's finally hit his stride. Yeah.
I'm assuming that with the basement permit, what they're talking about is they don't have a permit for the finishings of the basement. They don't have a permit for the bathroom and the the finishings. That's
so
it.
Here's the exact wording from the article is the statement of claim filed at the Court of Queen's Bench on November 3rd, 2020 alleges Pacesetter failed to obtain the necessary permits or inspections and were negligent by using ordinary nails to secure the deck. An occupancy permit from August 2015 shows the house's basement and rear deck had not been approved.
Right. So then why did they give
said
occupancy?
She's been able to unable to find records of a deck permit or city inspection of the deck before 2020 when the deck was rebuilt.
Why were they given occupancy?
Right.
And so
There's no deck permit?
That's it. That's my argument, is that the city allowed those people to move in. If you didn't give a deck permit, if the inspector said you were allowed to move into this house.
Yep.
And there is no deck permit on there, what has to happen in his head or her head is they have to envision that when you walk out that door, you fall straight to the ground.
Right.
That the deck doesn't exist.
Right.
Because if the deck did exist, which it did, it was built at the same time that the house was framed.
Can you guys link this article when you post the podcast so people can look at this and see the pictures?
And it for sure had railing on it, and it for sure had soffit and fascia, and there is absolutely no chance that the person doing the soffit and fascia on the house didn't do the soffit and fascia on the underside of the deck. So it was there. It had stone and stucco on it.
So the stone at the base of the columns on the deck is the same stone as the column at the front of the house at the front door.
Weird.
So,
that probably happened at the same time.
Yeah.
So
same trimmings.
If you were to get the occupancy permit for the house and say the deck wasn't on the back of a 2-story, would that fly?
No. What they would do is they would make you turn the deadbolt around, and you would have to have the key
on the outside.
The key part would be inside.
Oh, okay.
And the lever part would be outside.
Right.
And then the door, then you have to use a key to open the door, which changes it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, now a kid can't just walk up there and open the door and walk out. You have to pretend like that the deck isn't there. And so if you were to give occupancy without a deck on the back of that house, you would have to change the deadbolt around and remove the doorknob.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay, so now we've established that they shouldn't have even given occupancy, apparently.
They should not have given occupancy on that house. And so now whose fault is it? The deck builder,
Still all three.
It starts with the city, though, in my opinion.
it's the city.
For sure, they're part of it. Yeah.
Ultimately, the city's fault.
Ironically, the home builder has removed the city from the lawsuit now.
Oh.
So, bum, 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 for whatever.
Okay, we're
It
just
doesn't
gonna
say
put
why.
a coat over top of this.
I don't know why they would be removed from that. It bugs me so much that the inspector gets to do their job
Yep.
and not be accountable for anything that they do in their job. He's not accountable for this. That's what's happened. They've been removed from the lawsuit. It's like, well, how is that even possible? You said that the house was safe to live in. You checked a box that said the place is safe to live in.
Yeah.
And now she broke her ankle and is injured and has to live in Toronto. And that's the worst city in the whole world to live in. I've been there.
I don't think she moved there on purpose. I think she was taking a flight to somewhere else.
Almost for sure she was trying to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then she got stuck there and was like, well,
I just haven't been able to make it back to Regina yet.
I guess I'll just stay here.
The article got that a little bit wrong. I am coming back. I feel like there's responsibility at all three levels here. Like the home builder for not getting the permit in the first place. That was their first big misstep.
What if
because how do you point fingers now when you intentionally skipped that part that makes sure that the deck is safe?
Did you intentionally-
home builder?
Home builder, yeah.
Did you
You said
intentionally
homeowner.
Oh no.
skip
home
that?
builder.
Maybe you didn't intentionally skip that. Like it could be argued that the deck is on the plans, and so when they submitted the plans, they assumed the city was going to get a permit for the entire plan that they gave. There's a drawing that has the deck on it, and so the city should say they're the authority figure. They're the ones making the decision, and so much the same way as if a police officer pulls you over and they make a decision about whether the person in the back wearing their seatbelt, whether that's their fault or your fault. And at a certain point, at a certain age, the police officer says, well, you're 16. Now you're responsible for your own actions, right? But less than that, it's the driver's responsibility.
There's certainly
They're the authority figure. They make the decision. On a set of permits, on a set of plans, the city is the authority figure. So it's their responsibility to decide whether that deck needs a permit then or not. And the home builder submitted the plans and was like, I'd like a permit to build this house. And the city's like, sounds good. House.
However, legally, ignorance is not a defense either.
It is not.
And so they've built 6,000 homes in Regina and 6,000 in Winnipeg and 6,000 in Calgary. And they would know that a separate permit, or they should know at this point, after building thousands of homes that probably had decks in them, that the deck is not part of the permit, that you need to specify and scope it out on the permit application that says rear deck.
Right.
Is also covered. Like we're also applying for a rear deck. Then you have to fill out an entire checkbox that says what size of the joists and what size of the beams and what size is that. If they didn't do that, then they obviously weren't applying for the deck permit, and they can't plead like, oh, we didn't know we didn't have to. Like you're a home builder.
Yeah.
You built thousands of
I
homes.
mean, then at
You
that point, you
should
probably
know.
shouldn't be a home builder.
And who knows? Maybe it was just an employee of that was like, who knows why the deck didn't have a permit pulled on. We don't know. We can only speculate.
Well, for sure, it's an employee of the company.
But what the article does not say, and Pacesetter is in this article, like the GM of Pacesetter is responding with quotes in this article. It does not at any point say we didn't know that the deck wasn't part of the full permit. If that was their defense, it'd be in here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what they are doing is, well, it actually said in here, we followed all the, I can't remember what the wording is. We followed all the necessary requirements to ensure a safe and blah, 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 and then pointed fingers at the subcontractor. It's like, they did it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't agree with that. To me, it doesn't matter.
Bet you they don't
If
work
you
for each other anymore.
subcontract anything out, you're responsible. If my kid does something, I'm responsible for it. At this point in time,
Yeah, it ends up going back to the home builder.
it's the home builder's responsibility for everything that a subcontractor does.
Correct.
Just like it's the city's responsibility after a
But
permit
what
has been
happens
pulled.
with home builders is they hire the least expensive contractor
Right.
and they don't double check their work. Not very often. They assume that they're good right off the bat. They might check the first or second house.
And that's where I point the finger back at them, because fine, if you don't know as the home builder the ins and outs of the specific codes that are required for every part of that house. The reason you get the permit is to get somebody who does to tell you safe.
Not somebody who does, somebody you pay to tell you
Right.
it passes.
And so if you've skipped that step, then you better make damn sure that the deck was built safe. Then if you're going to skip the part that's there to make sure it's safe,
Yeah.
then you've taken that liability on then
As the home builder.
as a home builder.
Yep.
And the contractor.
Yeah.
I think
Ultimately, it's their work that failed, right?
I think the
Right.
contractor is the furthest down on this. Like the least, I think they're the least accountable, the contractor. And the reason I think they're the least responsible is their work was to be double checked by two people they report to, the inspector and the home builder.
Mm.
And if both of those people checked off on their work and said it was good, then it was good. We built according to plan.
Well, yeah.
We're here to assemble the Legos the way they are told us to be assembled.
But we don't know what that plan.
Correct. If the
We don't know if
the
that-
ledger connection on the plans from Pacesetter showed structural fasteners,
Right.
then it is on the subcontractor.
Right.
If the home builder drew a set of plans that said fasten to the house with
Yep.
lag screws or SDSW screws or ledger lock screws or what structural fastener,
Mm-hmm.
and the subcontractor did not use a structural fastener, then they're at fault.
Right.
USMC coming back in saying, I told you it was the builder.
And the
this
city.
This quote from the article, I don't know if I should laugh or be pissed off about it, but the quote says from the home builder, the GM of the home builder, said that ... the deck was structurally sound, but the connection point between the deck and the home failed over time. We will be sharing our findings with the industry so this can mitigate risk of this happening to other Regina residents.
The deck was not structurally
It was
sound.
not structurally sound.
Is laying on the effing ground.
And what are you finding out that you're going to share with the industry? Like, what a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
The industry already knows this happens.
It's already
Right.
spec'd in the code.
Who are you going to go to and tell that that's what happened?
Right.
Guess what? National Building Code of Canada. Turns out if you don't put those structural things that you guys talk about in there in the house, the decks fall right off. Did you know this?
Did you know? Well, I found there are like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these articles just in
Yeah.
Canada alone
Yes.
that I found today.
Yes. Now, here's the other kicker. In 2015, the city, even if you did get a permit, did not ask for your connection detail of your ledger to your house. That's only a recent happening in the last
That's our city.
2 years.
That's our city.
Every
That-
city's different.
Other cities ask for that.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one where this happened.
Yeah.
In this case,
Yep.
at that time, even if they had gone through the proper permitting process,
It
and
would
said,
have
we're
passed.
building this deck.
It would have passed.
They at that time they didn't even ask you how you were connecting the ledger. It wasn't on it, and the building inspector wasn't on his docket of things to check. Ledger connection was not one of the things.
Right.
So in 2015, even if all the checks and balances were done properly as the city wants you to do them, this still happens.
Right. And ignorance is not an excuse. Right? We've already established that.
Yep.
And so just because the city didn't
Well, that's
have
what the police officer said when I was doing 90 in a 30 zone. He was just like, well, you have to know what the speed limit is.
There you go.
You should put signs up. There were. They should be bigger. They're pretty big.
Yeah. So I can buy in with yours that the contractor, which doesn't seem right, but when you think it all through, probably is the third in line for responsibility here. It's like that's the guys that actually did this.
Legally, they're the third
but
in line.
legally probably third in line.
Yeah, legally. He's
Legally.
least accountable.
But yeah, in this scenario right here, it's like you can't. I don't think you can point at one person. They're all partially.
So what's the
responsible for this
solution here? How do you do this? Like, do we phone Bonnie from CBC and be like, I'm ready to have a conversation and let's get this thing in the news again.
Well, no, I
and again.
think we're good now because the builder's going to let the industry know about this. So
What a clown.
problem solved.
Do you think that do you think that he knows how stupid he sounds when he said that?
No.
Do you think if he listened back to it now, he would think he sounded stupid, or do you think he's like, No, I'm right. I built a structurally sound deck.
Do you think his second story deck is attached with
I'll bet you.
bright common nails?
This
Yes.
is probably.
Yeah.
This
He probably doesn't even live in his own homes.
It's just pure human behavior to be like he's just being like he's been put in the spot too. He didn't build the house. He probably didn't have anything to do with the actual house. He's a guy in the office that runs.
made the
business,
profit
right?
from it.
Sure, but like he was probably pretty detached from this. This is likely news to him too. But he's the one that gets the phone call. And it's like, well, from what I've been told, it's been structurally sound. Yeah, somebody told you that because their ass is on the line.
It's human behavior, just like the way that deck was built. It's human behavior to build this the fastest and least expensive way possible.
Yep.
And what happens is they don't change the magazine in their nailer, and they don't go back and get a drill to put some screws in.
Yeah, and I don't think it's even.
And
I
they
don't
just
even think it's that.
They just
it's just a
sizzle that on as fast as they can.
pure lack of knowledge. It ain't.
Right.
There's no way it's cost related. Like we've talked about this before. It's $3 worth of structural bolts on a $300,000 house. Here's what we haven't said yet. This was a row home, a townhouse. There's 9 of them, all built this exact same way,
And they were all told.
and they
after
were all
this
told
happened.
immediately from the home builder, "Don't use your deck until further notice." And then it sounds like the home builder had sent out somebody to go leg in the the ledgers on the rest of these decks.
Oh, so they did know what the problem was.
Now,
They didn't
know
have to
now.
inspect it.
They know what it is now.
and
The
the
ledger
neighbors were like,
connection-
I still don't know if I want to go out there
The ledger connection failed. It's pretty obvious. The
They
ledger's
look-
ripped right off the house.
Mhm.
cleanly. Like the
I don't know.
Tyvek is still there.
The
And
paper's not
perfect.
even ripped.
It's like one little rip or something caught, like a sliver snagged it or something. Sure, it wasn't a screw pulling that out.
It's just glue.
Might have been glue. They could have glued it.
Just glued the whole
Brad
thing up.
nailed it on is probably what happened.
So
Anyways,
there you have
I
it.
hope this lady I hope
I hope she gets out of Toronto first.
and when she gets out of Toronto and then can be happy again, I hope she gets a ton of money.
So
Yep.
she suffered fractures on her right heel and ankle, a contusion under her left eye, and bruises.
I just
Is
like
what she walked
And
with.
this
Some
is
of them are
so dangerous, though.
permanent injuries.
Let's.
and
Somebody could like
I want the city back
somebody
on that.
could have died
I want
on
that
this.
city back on that lawsuit. Oh yeah, did you read the part where it was like maybe they were using their deck incorrectly and it overloaded it?
Yeah.
It's like, shut up.
2 people in a bistro set and a barbecue.
Right.
That thing is underload. That's being underutilized for what most people have put on their deck.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's again the defense of like point fingers. Well, it's their fault. They were walking on it.
They didn't maintain it properly.
Yeah.
It's a what is it? It's a pressure treated deck. It's a composite deck. It's maintenance free.
Looks like
Yeah.
treated. Looks like treated to me. But
Anyways,
well, if they would only use composite,
for oil.
Would have held it
maybe
together.
they needed to oil their deck a little bit.
moisture content in the decking was too high.
Yeah, and it's
too
just
much
like
weight.
it's so infuriating. And
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because we're gonna all like we're all picking sides and saying who's responsible. Well, we're gonna find out legally who the court
Well,
decides is responsible for this. And
it's going to be not the
it's
city,
not the city.
because they've been taken off of there. And I think that that's not. I don't think that that's fair. I think that if the inspector, like I've said a bunch of times, how I think the inspector should be handled. They should have to take classes. They should have a certificate to be an inspector, and they should have to buy insurance for malpractice.
Yeah, they should be licensed then,
They
right?
should
Like
be a
there
licensed
should
inspector.
be like
What if they were like doctors,
exactly.
right? And so a doctor makes a mistake and somebody dies on the table. It's like, well, they get paid for that. Well, do they need to make as much money as a doctor? Probably not the exact same amount because their insurance likely isn't $50,000 a year. Their insurance make it $5,000.
Right.
But every single inspector that is a licensed inspector has to pay into like an insurance pot.
Right.
And when something fails, like 7 years ago, there was a set of stairs in the Greens on Gardner that fell. Like there was guys carrying windows up to the 3rd floor of the house and the staircase let go from the top. Same problem. It was like, it was smooth nailed on and they had a window and they were up on the 3rd story and down they went. And it
It was like a 1,500-pound window, right? It was like a big sucker.
and it went all the way to the bottom. Just like every time they landed, the stairs failed. And they ended up in the basement with the window on them, broken.
That's like straight cartoon shit right there.
It was.
Right?
Blam, blam,
Home
blam.
Alone.
Except for the guy that like had all the cuts on him from the glass, right?
Yeah.
Nobody
Awful.
died.
Okay, we have a bunch of comments that have all of a sudden spurred up here. So some conversations happening on the Instagram Live. USMC says, or maybe it was built. So he said, I told you it was the builder, or maybe it was built as directed by the home builder who specifically skimped to cut cost. Eric Teru says, this might fall into the we've always built them that way.
Yep.
FBP Canuck says, what if this was a faulty connector? What if, quote, this was a faulty connector, meaning they got a bad batch of fasteners. Finger pointing then becomes a sport.
Yeah.
We know it wasn't a faulty connector. It was straight up they said they weren't properly connected.
Didn't use the proper connectors.
USMC says, quote, don't use your decks until further notice. Sounds like admitting guilt. That's what I said too. Like, if you don't think it's you. I mean, you could also say like you're just looking out for the people, and
Well,
like,
yeah,
it's gonna fall on you whether you feel it's like your fault or not. It's
It
like
fell.
don't
well,
want that to happen 9 more
we
times.
need to go look at the rest of them.
Yeah. FPP Canuck says this is assuming they used the proper fasteners. In this case, obviously they used improper screws. No, they didn't use any.
They didn't use any
It was
screws.
bright nails, framing nails.
Smooth shank, common nails.
TC Dex says blame Amber Heard. We haven't really talked about what her involvement in this is. So
Maybe that's how it was overloaded.
Whoa.
FPP Canuck says
I think
on a
Pacesetter should
side
get her
note,
lawyers.
on a side note, the railing stood up. Must have been Fortress.
Yeah.
The railing did stand up. I can
It
promise
is.
you it's not Fortress.
Yeah, it looks a lot like the other guys.
Yeah. So there, we didn't even fight. We're all in agreement.
You and all your friends are idiots, and here's why.
That's a good one.
So we'll say it again. That's the most important part of a deck,
The connection to the house.
is making sure it's connected to the house. And if
Yeah.
you're not confident in doing that, then don't rely on the house connection to support the deck.
I
Put
was
another
at
beam under
a
there.
house this morning, just before this podcast, I ran over to a place and they were like, we want you to like remove this decking and then it's a little bit bouncy. So I think we should maybe put a beam in the middle of this. And it's like, okay, sounds good. 16 feet out, 2x8 joists, one beam at the end. And I was like, yep,
Nice.
you could for sure use another beam. It will be bouncy, you bet. So we'll put a beam here. And I leaned under and looked and there is not a single hanger on that. Like not one. Not a single hanger on the whole thing. But it is lagged into the house. Like you could see the lag bolts. And so they had lagged the ledger on. But I'm assuming what happened was they built the box.
Yep.
Lifted it up, lagged it onto the
That
house.
used to be more common, and I'm not. To my understanding, that used to be okay.
Yeah. And so
And maybe
anyways,
even
we're
still
gonna-
is if you
we'll
shot
throw-
the nails through the back, right? But
We'll throw a few hangers on that.
but it's not okay because I've seen those done that way, and it's like maybe it was okay at the time, but those are always pulling away.
Yeah.
Like the ledger's staying, but the joists are pulling out of the nail.
Yeah.
So it's like not ideal. But anyways, that's your, I guess, monthly reminder to make sure that your decks are built properly and that you're double checking that ledger, triple checking that ledger board on your own house if you're about to build your own deck and making sure that it's attached properly, because like we said in our markets, 90% of the time it's not. When you go to start building your deck, your
No.
ledger's just hanging there, and this is what happens.
Right.
And this is a broken heel is about as good as that could have went.
She's lucky.
There was so some of the other articles that I found, there was a deck in Langley, BC. 100 people fell down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
170 of them went to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So
And it was only a 100 square foot deck. It
Yeah.
was tight in there.
it might have been overloaded.
Yep. It's not something to be taken lightly. And this is why if you don't know what you're doing, you hire somebody who does. And you got to get good
Gets him
contractors.
advice. Just gets him
Get your
advice.
Isn't
permit
that the
and-
problem with this?
That's the problem.
Because you assume you are hiring
did
someone.
hire somebody. Yeah. Yep. Agreed. And that's why, yeah, like the contractor has to take some of it. I don't know how much of it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So
take
like,
something.
so let's say it's $1 million pie that she gets a check for. What's the breakdown on that? How do you, who
Who's
pays-
paying that?
Yep.
Oh boy, now you're gonna get into it.
I
I don't
think
know. I think it's like, I believe that the
based
Every
on this
time
one,
you-
it really feels like the city should be paying the most.
every time you, but I just can't get away from the fact that they didn't pull a permit on that deck. That to me immediately ups their responsibility.
I don't understand how they got an occupancy permit.
I
They
don't-
shouldn't
and
even
then
have
there's
been
that.
in the house.
That's how the last podcast got out of hand. As soon as you think you've got somebody, you're like, oh, but what about this? Oh yeah, and then so
But I don't think that I don't think the city should be absolved of this because
I don't think they should be either.
so they got to pay something.
USMC
And so-
says 40, 40, 20. I assume that means 40 city, 40 home builder, 20 contractor. That's what I was bouncing around in my head. It was like equal responsibility between the home builder and the city, and then the contractor has the smallest part. I feel like maybe even. Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say I feel like 20 is maybe
I
too
think
much
maybe
for
the
them.
contractor should be paying like 10.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 10, but at the same time, it's like your work is the direct. You were the only hands-on person on this. You're the only guy. That's who touched it.
Mm-hmm.
That's who put it. That's why it failed. You
Mhm.
didn't do it right.
Even
Even without
didn't
a
do it right.
building plan and a blueprint, you should know you have to attach that ledger properly. If you're building decks, that's just
Right.
You should just know that. So
Should the home builder be hiring people that can't build decks though?
Yeah,
no, they should hire deck builders.
What was the vetting process in that? They hired a framer.
They hired what was convenient.
They
They
hired
hired
a-
on site.
yeah.
It's a framer. The deck needs framed.
and it costs way less because they pay framers like $1.50 or $2 a square foot to frame those things.
Because framers use nails and deck builders use screws.
FBP Canuck says homeowner bought the house from the builder, 100% the builder.
Yeah, but then the city said that the house was safe to live in. The deck fell off.
So if it's always the home builder, then
That's
we
the
just
thing.
get rid of the permit process.
Right. Because you're right. The occupancy permit, they told the city or the home
The
builder,
city told the builder.
you're good to go.
The
You're good
city-
to sell that home and have your people move in. Good to go.
The city said it was safe.
Yeah.
And the home builder didn't maybe necessarily know to check for nails. And
And so
they don't know what they don't know.
what
The
happens
reason they subcontractors because they don't know.
whose fault is it if
Uh-oh. Now we're in it.
whose fault is it if the home inspector says no occupancy and the builder sends somebody in? Like if they didn't have a proper occupancy permit.
Then it's the builder's fault
100%
for sure.
the builder, right? So then why does the liability change when the city's like safe? Now all of a sudden it's on the builder. It's like if the city says you're not allowed to move in, then you broke the rules. But if the city says it is safe to move in, then they're like then it's them.
Yeah, I really feel like in this case, in like my opinion and the way that the rules are set out now, that the permit, the city should pay it all, and then they could sue the home builder.
So an FPP Canuck says the builder can fight it out if they want afterwards, but bottom line, consumer is taken care of. So he's basically saying it's 100% on who the homeowner can go after is the builder. And I agree with that. Like that's the lawsuit there.
Sure,
And
because that's
then-
who they paid.
And then the builder can go after the contractor in the city if they think they've got that argument.
Sure.
So that's how that's probably going to, that's how it is playing out. They
Yeah.
sued the home builder. The home builder added the subcontractor in the city to their defense or to
Yeah.
their whatever.
Okay.
That's what they're trying anyway. And then they dropped the city for some reason. So
Yeah, because the
Because-
city probably almost for sure the city said if you keep us on this, you will
You're never gonna
we'll
get an
never
occupancy
approve you
again.
for a house again. So either like they just bullied them.
Yeah.
Which like if you're in that position you can.
Yeah.
But instead of
But
saying,
so
like,
who's
"Well,
the
we better.
who's the permit inspector supposed to protect theoretically?
the
homeowner? The resident?
The homeowner.
Okay.
Eric Turu says in Quebec, a proper licensed contractor is 100% responsible. No inspection required. New home construction might be different.
Sure. So do that. If you want to be a contractor, if you want to build houses, you have to pass. You have to be red sailed and you got to take these courses and you got to
But who's the contractor in this case, though?
So then that's the guy who built the deck. And then it ends up on him. But if the
This is why
process
it's impossible to solve.
if the
Because we go
pros-
from him being the smallest one to me like he's 100%.
well, he's
Here, right?
he's not at all responsible. He not at all, but he's not held accountable here. But what Eric is saying is like you don't have inspections there.
Yeah.
You have certified contractors. And I actually think that would be better because I don't think that the inspector has any value in this process. They clearly don't do their job. Period. That's it. The deck fell off the house and he said it
Yeah.
was good to go. So he's not doing his job, her job. So why do we have them? Why do we have to pay for a permit? And why do we have to go through the process of having these people come out and look at shit when it falls? They're not accountable. I have the same problem with engineers. An engineer specs a thing, and then at the very bottom of all their plans, it's like, we're not accountable for anything that goes wrong according to how we spec'd it. It's like, then why do I pay you?
Yeah.
Right. What's the point?
What's the point?
Yep.
Be accountable.
Right.
And so it's like, if you design a 50-story building out of wood and you're an engineer and you're like, yeah, but if it shrinks or falls, it's not my fault. It's like, well, you designed it poorly. It's totally your fault.
It's never clear cut, right? There was that bridge up in somewhere in Saskatchewan that collapsed after being up for not long, like a year.
No, it was that day.
It opened and it collapsed.
It opened and collapsed that day.
That again, and that's the same kind of fight's happening now.
Not my fault.
The RM's pointing at the engineer and be like, they engineered it. The engineer's like, yeah, not my fault. We suggested that you do whatever it was. They skipped some sort of environmental.
The government suggested that they go one way, and they went for the cheapest route.
Right.
And this engineer was the cheapest guy, and he's built decks all over Saskatchewan that have failed.
Bridges.
Yeah.
And
what did I say?
Maybe decks too.
My guess is he's got some decks that failed as well.
So, and he's able to go like, hey, I suggested this soil report or whatever it was, and you skipped it, so not on me. And it's like, kind of on you.
Looks a little shady when you close your business though and open a new one.
And when the bridge fails day one.
Yeah. No one was even on it.
Like it just
fell over.
Its own weight.
Okay.
Two final comments. Deck Protect says, Wade, when you retire, I will join you on request. Eric Turu says, we have 4 exams to pass, more depending on sublicenses. I need $2 million liability insurance and a $40,000 bond.
Yeah.
So
it is.
there's certainly a lot. There's no certification here to become a contractor. I know some states, provinces, you have to get a license to, and I don't know what's required in that, but you go through something to become a contractor.
Yeah.
Here you slide over to Home Depot, pick up a Ryobi drill, boom, contractor.
Yeah,
Get your contractor credit card.
I don't think that.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Maybe that's not the answer here, but like, it's one or the other. Either the inspector needs to carry some liability and they're accountable, or the builder, the person building the deck, has to have some some insurance, liability insurance. That's it. That's
the final thought.
Oh boy.
There it is, clear as mud. Still don't know whose freaking fault it is. Build safer decks.
It's the city's fault.
So let's get out of here. I'm done with this topic. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Just makes me angry and sad.
I do it every week.
At the same time.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Now you know what we're about. Check the site, come and shop. UltimateDeckShop.com. Hit us right away for sponsorships, or tell us if you want to collaborate. Let's go.